The twin suns of Corrales 7 cast amber and violet shadows across the colony's edge, where a man stood before a glowing holographic marketplace, his finger hovering over a transaction he never imagined making. The silence in his home had grown unbearable, not peaceful, but hollow. He hadn't been searching for companionship when he began scrolling through listings of domestic workers. He was looking for something, anything, to fill the emptiness. That was when he saw her, marked defective, priced accordingly, yet something in her copper eyes made him pause. Ethan Voss moved through his darkened house like a ghost. At 42, grief had carved deep hollows beneath his eyes. 8 months since Sarah's death, and he had only been surviving. The marketplace glowed before him, an endless display of beings from across known space, all available under the Concord's bonded labor system. His finger scrolled idly until a flicker of static revealed a hidden listing. Discounted acquisitions, as is condition. She stopped him cold, skin the color of storm clouds, shifting between blue and gray. Elegant bone structure, large copper eyes shimmering with sorrow, hair braided in intricate patterns, nearly black with deep blue undertones. Species, Lyrian homeworld. Destroyed age, 27 standard year skills, culinary status. Defective, sensory sensitivity bond price, 400 credits, most listings began at 5,000. Before he could reconsider, Ethan pressed confirm transaction. The transport arrived the next morning. A Velcarian official stepped out, rust-colored skin gleaming, movements clipped with bureaucratic precision. Ethan Voss? That's me. Retrieve asset LY7743. She emerged from the shadows, barefoot, cautious, taller than he expected. About 5'9". Moving with a quiet grace the hologram had failed to capture, thin metallic restraints circled her wrists. Her name? Ethan asked. The official blinked, mildly surprised. Designation LY7743. Original registration incomplete. The Lyrian woman inclined her head slightly, acknowledging the exchange. Ethan signed the release without reading it. Then he stepped forward and knelt to reach her wrists. I'm going to remove these now, he said softly. Her hands trembled. I'm Ethan, he added. And you're not property? Not here. The restraints clicked open and fell away. For the first time, she looked up. Copper eyes flecked with gold met his, eyes full of exhaustion yet carrying a fragile, dangerous hope. The moment passed in silence before she looked away again. The official departed, leaving an awkward stillness behind. Come inside, Ethan said. It's quieter there. He walked toward the house without turning back. A moment later, her bare feet followed. Inside, the dim light softened everything. Vela, he decided to think of her that way, relaxed fractionally as she crossed the threshold. Her fingers brushed the counters, mapping the space. At the kitchen window, she stopped, pressing her palm against the glass that overlooked an overgrown garden. My wife's garden, Ethan said quietly. She grew herbs. I haven't kept it up since she died. Vela turned to him, her gaze direct. You lost someone. Her voice startled him, low, resonant, carrying strange harmonics that felt almost musical. Yes, he said. 8 months ago. I lost everyone, she replied. 3 years ago. The simple admission bridged the vast distance between them. I'm sorry, Ethan said. I'm sorry, she echoed. He gestured toward a side door. Your room is through there. It has a window and a private bath. If you need anything, let me know. At the threshold, she hesitated. You removed my chains. They shouldn't have been on you. Most wouldn't remove them. I'm not most. Vela studied him, searching his face for something unseen. Whatever she found seemed to satisfy her. She nodded and slipped through the doorway. From her room came the sound of running water, soft, rhythmic, alive. For the first time in 8 months, the silence of the house didn't feel suffocating, but neither of them yet understood. Removing those chains had been the easy part. 3 days passed in careful avoidance. On the 4th, Ethan found a handwritten note. Market allowance requested for fresh ingredients. He authorized the account without hesitation. That evening, she returned carrying cloth bags filled with glowing vegetables, rare earth herbs, and strange fruits from distant worlds. The meal she prepared was extraordinary, every flavor alive, every dish designed to awaken dulled senses. Through her closed door that night, he heard singing, soft, haunting, wordless. Emotion bled through each note. By the fourth evening, Ethan timed his arrival to coincide with her cooking. Vela stood at the counter, her back to him, movements smooth and deliberate. Her braid was pinned up, revealing the graceful line of her neck and the faint luminescence of her skin. "Good evening," Ethan said. She tensed slightly, then turned, a knife glinting in her hand. "Good evening. What are you making?" "Bakla stew. Traditional, from what my world was. May I watch?" "You may stay." He pulled up a stool. Her hands moved with a rhythm that was more than skill, it was memory. "You learned this from your family?" "He asked from my grandmother," she said softly. "On Lyria we believed food." "Every recipe," Vela said softly, "carried memory. My grandmother made me memorize them all. I think she knew. She was making sure something of us would survive." Ethan watched the steam rise from the pot. "Does it help?" "Yes and no," she replied after a pause. "It reminds me of what's gone. But also that I'm still Lyrian. The food becomes proof we existed, that we mattered." He hesitated. "Does it bother you, cooking food from a dead world?" "No," she said. "It bothers me that your world died at all." Her gaze lifted, steady and unreadable. "Most humans don't think about the scourge wars. Most humans," Ethan said, "are afraid of uncomfortable truths. My wife used to say our greatest failing was how easily we compartmentalize atrocity. Your wife was wise." "She was. How did she die?" He drew in a slow breath. "Arterial failure. The facilities here weren't equipped to handle it. She died in my arms. Asked me to promise I'd keep living. And have you?" The question struck deeper than she could have known. "No," he admitted quietly. "I've been breathing." "That's not the same." "When the casters came to my world," she said, her voice distant, "they gave us 3 days to evacuate. I was 17. My parents said they'd follow." She paused, eyes unfocused. There was no next ship. "My brother died 2 years later, mining dust exposure. He was 14. The space between them filled with shared silence, vulnerability neither could disguise. "The food is ready," she said finally, ladling the fragrant stew into 2 bowls. "Would it be acceptable if I ate here?" she asked after a moment. "In my culture, sharing food is important." "I'd like that," Ethan said. They ate in quiet, not absence, but presence. "This is incredible," he said after a few bites. "My grandmother believed food carries intention," Vela said. "If you cook with anger, people taste bitterness. With love, they taste comfort. And what intention did you cook this with?" "Remembrance," she murmured. "And perhaps hope. Just enough to season the dish." Conversation flowed easily after that. Vela spoke of Lyria, the capital city carved into a sacred mountain, the festivals of sound, the philosophy of connected silence. "We believed silence could hold truth," she explained. "That sometimes the most important things exist in the space between words." "I've been living in silence for 8 months," Ethan said quietly. "But it hasn't felt like it held anything except emptiness." "That's because you've been silent alone," she said. "Silence shared becomes communion." He didn't respond, but when they fell quiet again, he realized she was right. When they finished eating, they cleaned together. Occasionally their arms brushed, and each time Vela's body tensed slightly, her awareness heightened. "Can I ask about your sensitivity?" Ethan said. "Lyrians evolved under specific light," she explained. "Our star was dimmer. We see better in low light, hear frequencies others can't. But bright light and loud sounds, those can be overwhelming, even painful." "Is it painful here?" "No," she said, a faint smile crossing her lips. "Your settings are comfortable. It's the first place since Lyria where my body hasn't been in constant distress." The casual mention of years in pain made something tighten in his chest. "If there's anything I can adjust, tell me," he said. "This is your home too." She turned, studying him closely. "You keep saying things like that. Why?" "Because it's true. But I'm bonded labor," she said slowly. "The contract gives you full authority. Why don't you exercise it?" "Because the contract is wrong," he said. "You're a person, not property. I may have been desperate enough to use this system, but I'm not deluded enough to believe it's moral." Vela stared at him, copper eyes wide. "I don't understand you." "I'm just trying to be decent," he said. "Trying to honor my wife's memory by being the kind of man she believed I could be." She bowed her head slightly. Thank you, she said quietly, for the company, and for sharing your story. Thank you for sharing your grandmother's recipe. At her doorway, she paused. Tomorrow, if you wish, I could teach you some Lyrian cooking techniques. I'd like that, he said. She disappeared into her room, and for the first time, Ethan was alone, but not empty. The quiet felt different now, not hollow, expectant. The next morning, Vela prepared breakfast. They ate together. She perched lightly at the counter, poised as if ready to retreat. Afterward, Ethan stood at the window, staring into the overgrown garden. I've been thinking, he said. The garden, my wife's garden. It's become wild since she died. Letting it fade feels like betraying her memory. Maybe we could restore it together. Vela's expression softened. Her posture straightened. I would like that very much. On Lyria, my family kept extensive gardens. I haven't touched living soil since... She stopped, voice catching. It's been a long time. Then let's change that, Ethan said. They gathered tools and went outside. The garden was a tangle of neglect, but Vela moved through it with reverence, fingers trailing along leaves, lips murmuring softly in her native tongue. Your wife had remarkable instincts, she said. She planted companion species, each supporting the other. It's a sophisticated ecology. She studied xenobotany, Ethan said. She used to say plants were more honest than people. They show you exactly who they are. She wasn't wrong, Vela said. Plants understand interdependence better than most sentient species. Survival isn't domination, it's balance. They worked in companionable silence. The sunlight deepened the glow of Vela's skin until it seemed she was lit from within. You're glowing, Ethan said, surprised. Vela smiled genuinely. Lyrians photosynthesize. Sunlight gives us supplemental energy. Artificial lights have the wrong spectrum. They burn without nourishing. But this feels wonderful. I'd forgotten what real sunlight was like. You can work out here anytime you want, Ethan said. Maybe we should plan for you to spend a few hours in the sun each day. Her hands went still. I don't have a schedule, she said quietly. You never gave me one. I wasn't sure what was expected. I don't want to give you one, he said. I don't want to dictate your time. Handle cooking and maintenance as you see fit, and the rest of your time is yours. I can't grant you legal freedom, but within this house I can give you autonomy. Vela studied him again, long and searching. Why? She asked finally. Tell me the real reason. Because I see myself in you, Ethan said finally. We're both surviving situations we never chose, both trapped in roles we didn't ask for. When I bought you, I told myself it was practical, but the truth is I recognized something familiar. Someone else drowning in grief, and maybe I thought that if I could make your situation less unbearable, it might make mine feel less meaningless. So your kindness is selfish, Vela said quietly. Probably, he admitted. Is that a problem? She considered that. No. Kindness is kindness regardless of motive. At least you're honest about it. She turned back to the plants. For what it's worth, you are helping. I've spent 3 years believing I would die in servitude, but this feels different. They continued working in companionable silence. Vela began humming, a low, resonant melody that blended with the rustle of leaves. It's a planting song, she explained. We sang different ones for each stage, sowing, tending, harvesting. It reminded us we were part of a cycle. It made work sacred. By midday, they'd cleared 3 beds with the beginnings of a new pathway taking shape. Vela sat against the garden wall, face tilted toward the twin suns, her skin glowing softly. She had removed her jacket. Pale scars marked her shoulders, thin parallel lines. Ethan's gaze lingered. Processing center, she said quietly, noticing his eyes. They kept us shackled for 6 months. The restraints were too small for Lyrian anatomy. Comfort wasn't a priority. I'm sorry, he said. It's the past, she replied. What matters is now, this moment. Sitting in sunlight, helping restore something beautiful. That's more than I've had in years. She closed her eyes, basking in the warmth. Ethan watched her, luminous and unguarded. Her skin shimmered between shades of blue and silver, her features alien and achingly beautiful. He realized with a pang that he was drawn to her. The recognition felt like betrayal, an intrusion upon Sarah's memory. As if sensing it, Vela opened her eyes. You're troubled. He hesitated, then said, This is the first time since Sarah died that I've felt present, like I'm actually living my life instead of enduring it. And I feel guilty for that, as if finding any joy means I'm betraying her. Vela moved closer, kneeling beside him. May I tell you something about my brother? He nodded. When he died, I wanted to follow him, but I remembered something he said. He made me promise to live, not just survive, but live. He told me grief proves love, but living proves resilience. And both are needed to honor the dead properly. She placed her hand over his, the first time she'd initiated touch. Your wife asked you to keep living, she said gently. If she loved you, she would want you to find joy again, not as replacement, but as evidence that her love changed you in ways that outlast her. Ethan swallowed hard. Thank you. We're helping each other, she said softly. Two broken beings making something whole out of the fragments. They returned to their work, but something had shifted. An invisible wall dissolved. Where distance had existed, quiet understanding now took root. As the suns descended, they surveyed their progress. The garden, once lifeless, was beginning to breathe again. We did good work today, Ethan said. We did, Vela agreed. Same time tomorrow? He smiled faintly. I'd like that. So would I. 2 weeks passed. The rhythm between them deepened into familiarity. Ritual almost. Ethan no longer thought of her as bonded labor. She had simply become Vela, someone whose laughter, rare as it was, he found himself collecting like fragile treasures. One afternoon, while visiting the market, Ethan was approached by a heavy-set man in a merchant's jacket. Boss, the man said, heard you're letting your Lyrian run unsupervised. That's irregular. People are talking. Let them talk. You're undermining the whole system. Give them too much freedom and they start getting ideas. The only problem I see, Ethan said evenly, is people like you, who've convinced themselves sentient beings are property. Watch yourself, the man warned. Keep disrupting social order and you'll find yourself very isolated. Good, Ethan said. I prefer isolation to complicity and atrocity. When he returned home, Vela was in the garden tending seedlings. What happened? She asked, reading his expression. He told her about the encounter. She listened, then nodded. Other bonded workers have started asking questions, she said. They want to know why I seem different. Some are hopeful. Others are suspicious. A few think I must be offering services to earn such treatment. The implication made Ethan's stomach turn. My previous owner tried once, she said, tone matter-of-fact. I broke his nose. That's when he marked me defective and sold me at a loss. Worth it. Ethan looked at her differently then, not just as someone surviving, but someone who had fought back and paid the price. I'm sorry that happened, he said. Don't apologize for decency, she replied. But you should understand what you're doing, treating me as a person, it disrupts the system. And systems defend themselves. Let them, Ethan said. I'm not changing how I treat you. Something flickered in her eyes, an emotion she quickly masked. She stepped closer. You keep surprising me, she said. Every time I think I know where your boundaries lie, you move them. It's disorienting, but not unpleasant. They stood like that for a long moment, the air charged between them, full of possibility neither dared name. Then Vela stepped back. I should start dinner, she said softly. Does root curry, it takes hours. Do you need help? Always. They moved inside. The kitchen filled with the scent of spice and warmth. Vela guided him through the delicate preparation, her hands occasionally brushing his. Each touch carried an electric awareness neither acknowledged. In Lyrian culture, she said quietly, cooking together is considered an intimacy. Not sexual, but deeply personal. It means trust, Ethan smiled faintly. Then I'm honored. And for the first time she smiled back without restraint. You're creating sustenance for each other, Vela said softly, stirring the pot. That's significant, Ethan smiled faintly. Are we being significant right now? Her hands stilled over the ingredients. I think we've been significant for a while, she said. The question is what we do about it. What do you want to do about it? She hesitated, glancing down at her hands. I don't know. On one hand, you own me. Legally, I have no autonomy. Any relationship between us would be compromised by that imbalance. She stepped closer, her voice quieter. But on the other hand, I've spent 3 years surviving. Every day was endurance. Then you removed my chains. You asked permission. You treated me like a person. And for the first time since my brother died, I felt something other than despair. So even though it's complicated, she exhaled slowly. I can't make myself want less of whatever this is. Ethan nodded. We can take our time. We don't have to define it. We can just keep being here, present with each other. Figure it out as we go. Is that what you want? She asked. I want you to feel safe, he said, to feel valued. Beyond that, whatever you want at whatever pace you need. There's no expectation, just possibility. She studied him for a long moment. Possibility, she repeated. A small smile curved her lips. I can work with that. The air shifted, no longer tense but charged with quiet anticipation. Later, they ate by candlelight. Shadows moved across Vela's face, softening her features. Can I ask you something personal? Ethan said, always. When you look at me, he asked, what do you see? She tilted her head, considering. You first, Ethan set his utensils down. I see someone remarkably strong. Someone who survived things that would have destroyed most people. I see generosity and courage. I see someone beautiful, and I see someone I'm grateful exists in my life, even if the circumstances that brought us together are unforgivable. Vela's eyes glistened in the candlelight. That's the kindest thing anyone has said to me in 3 years. It's also true. She reached across the table and took his hand, fingers threading through his. The gesture was simple, but it carried the weight of everything unspoken. Thank you for seeing me, she said quietly. Not what I'm classified as, but me. Thank you for letting me, Ethan whispered. They sat like that, hands entwined, candlelight flickering between them. And in that silence, something solidified. Not yet love, not fully, but recognition. The beginning of something profound. 4 weeks passed and the house changed with them. What had once felt like a mausoleum now pulsed with life. Light. Warmth. Ethan realized he was falling for her. Not just drawn to her, but invested. He wanted to know everything, her memories, her fears, her dreams. And from the way Vela sometimes looked at him, he suspected she might be falling too. Still, the truth of their situation hovered unspoken between them, a barrier made of law and history and guilt. That night, they sat beneath the 3 moons in the garden. Vela had brought out a small weathered book, her grandmother's recipe collection, one of the few things she'd saved from Lyria. This one, she said, opening to a page written in looping silver script, was for a bonding ceremony. When 2 people decided to build a life together, their families would gather and cook this dish. Each ingredient represented something: loyalty, patience, passion, forgiveness. Ethan looked at her. Would you want to make it together? Her eyes widened slightly. That would be significant, she said slowly. Making a bonding dish is essentially declaring intention to build a life together. I know. The air thickened with implication. Vela set the book down, hands trembling. Ethan, she said, voice shaking. I need to tell you something. He said nothing, waiting. I've fallen in love with you. I tried not to. I told myself it was gratitude or transference, but it's not. It's love. Real, complicated, probably impossible love. Ethan's pulse quickened, his breath catching. I know it's wrong, she went on. The power imbalance makes everything suspect. I know I can't truly consent when you legally own me, but right now I'm more certain about loving you than I've been certain about anything since my world died. She took a shaky breath. So I need to know what you want. Because if this is one-sided, I need to protect myself. But if you feel even a fraction of what I feel, then we have to figure this out together. Ethan had spent weeks maintaining careful distance, convincing himself it was the responsible thing to do. But hearing her say the words, he felt something in him break open. I love you too, he said. I've been fighting it, feeling guilty, telling myself it's too soon, that the situation makes it impossible. But the truth is I'm in love with you, Vela. Completely, terrifyingly. She inhaled sharply and then they were kissing, slow, desperate, careful. Months of tension condensed into a single moment of connection. When they finally broke apart, she rested her forehead against his. What do we do now? She whispered. I don't know, he said. But we'll figure it out. Together. She leaned into him and he wrapped an arm around her shoulders, drawing her close. I want to free you, he said. Legally. I've been researching the Concord's manumission laws. There's a process, bureaucratic, expensive, but possible. That could take years. I don't care, he said. I don't care how long it takes or what it costs. I want you to be free so that whatever we build, it's built on choice, not coercion. Her expression softened. In the meantime, he continued, we stay honest. We build trust. We acknowledge how complicated it is, but we don't let that stop us. You make it sound simple. It's not, he said. It's probably the hardest thing I've ever tried to navigate. But you're worth the complexity. Vela smiled faintly. I love you. I love you too. The words didn't feel like betrayal anymore, they felt like fulfillment. Like honoring the promise he'd made Sarah. Keep living. They stayed in the garden for hours, talking, laughing, kissing, existing without boundaries. Vela spoke of her dream to open a restaurant someday, a place where Lyrian cuisine could survive, where refugees could remember who they were. Ethan told her about his own long-buried ambitions, to travel beyond the colony, to write about interspecies relationships, to challenge the systems that dehumanized others. We could do that together, she said softly. When I'm free, he smiled. Is that what you want? More than anything. Then it will happen, he said. Whatever it takes. As the night deepened around them, the moons climbed higher, bathing the garden in pale light. Two souls, once shattered, sat beneath alien stars, building something fragile, forbidden, and entirely human. They moved back inside, quiet except for the soft hum of night insects beyond the walls. At Vela's door they paused. Ethan's hand hovered near hers. I want you to know, he said, voice low. There's no expectation. We can go as slowly as you need. Vela's lips curved, eyes glinting with warmth. I've spent 3 years denying myself any pleasure, any connection. Now that I have permission to want again, she caught his collar and kissed him deeper, more urgent than before. I don't want to be patient anymore. He searched her face. Are you sure? I'm sure, she whispered. Take me to bed, Ethan. Not as owner and property, but as someone who loves me to someone I love. And he did. Morning came in shards of crystalline light. Ethan woke with Vela curled against him, her skin glowing faintly in the sunlight. Silver and blue intertwined. For a long moment he simply watched her breathe. The night before had been extraordinary. But as the quiet hours sharpened into day, reality pressed in again. He was still her legal owner. And if anyone discovered what had happened between them, the consequences could destroy them both. Vela stirred, lashes fluttering. When her copper eyes met his, she smiled softly. Good morning. Good morning, he murmured. How are you feeling? Happy, she said simply. For the first time in 3 years, truly happy. They lingered in that peace for as long as they dared until the world intruded again. They were in the kitchen preparing breakfast when a sharp knock rattled the front door. Ethan froze. Through the security panel, he saw Crawford and 2 officials from the Concorded Labor Authority. His stomach dropped. He opened the door with forced calm. What can I do for you, Mr. Crawford? Crawford's smile was tight. These officers are here to perform a routine compliance inspection on your bonded labor. Routine inspection, one official confirmed. We need to interview your Lyrian and review her living quarters. Ethan's pulse thudded in his ears. Refusal would only raise suspicion. Fine, he said, but I'll remain present. They followed him into the kitchen, where Vela stood frozen beside the counter, her posture instinctively shifting into submission. Eyes lowered. Hands still. This is Vela, Ethan said evenly. My cook. The word burned in his throat after last night's tenderness. Lyrian 7743, corrected the official, tapping notes into a data pad. Show us your quarters. Vela led them to her room. It was tidy, sunlit, and unmistakably hers. Herbs growing in small jars, sketches pinned to the wall, her grandmother's recipe book lying open on the desk. The official scanned the space. Adequate room. Evidence of autonomy. She turned to Vela. Are you receiving proper nutrition? Yes. Medical care when required. I believe it would be provided if necessary. And your owner, does he treat you appropriately? Any physical mistreatment? Vela met the official's gaze briefly. No, he treats me well. Better than any previous owner. Crawford's voice cut in, oily and deliberate. And what about sexual demands? Have you been coerced into providing intimate services? The question hung in the air like a toxin. Ethan's stomach turned. Vela's fingers tightened around the edge of her sleeve. "No," she said quietly. "Mr. Voss has never made any inappropriate demands." Technically true, but the omission tasted like ash. The officials exchanged a glance, then nodded. "Everything appears in order. Living conditions exceed minimum concorded standards." Relief swept through Ethan until Crawford spoke again. "However," he said, "I've observed this Lyrian making independent purchases, moving about unsupervised. While not explicit violations, these behaviors suggest insufficient control." The official frowned. "Is this accurate?" "I allow her limited autonomy," Ethan said. "She purchases supplies for her work. She's skilled, it's more efficient that way." "Efficiency?" Crawford sneered. "Is that what you're calling it?" Ethan's composure cracked. "What exactly are you implying, Crawford?" "I'm implying," Crawford said coolly, "that your treatment of this Lyrian sets a dangerous precedent. Other bonded laborers see her freedom and start getting ideas. You're destabilizing the social order." Ethan's voice hardened. "The social order is legalized slavery, and if treating someone with dignity threatens that, then good." The official lifted a hand. "Mr. Voss, while your approach is unconventional, it's not a formal violation. Still, I advise you to consider how your choices affect the broader labor system." Ethan forced a nod. "Understood." The inspection ended. The officials left. Crawford threw him a look of warning before following. He found Vela in the garden, knees drawn to her chest. Her hands trembled slightly. "Are you okay?" he asked softly. She looked up, eyes glassy. "They almost found out," she whispered. "If they'd asked one more question." She drew a ragged breath. "Ethan, this is dangerous. If the Labor Authority discovers we've been together, they could classify me as a corrupted asset and transfer me to a disciplinary facility." Her voice broke. "I've heard what happens there. I'd rather die." "That won't happen," Ethan said. "I won't let it." "You might not have a choice," she said. "The system is bigger than both of us." "Then we sever your connection to it," he said firmly. "I've been researching manumission law. There's a firm on the core worlds, specialists in freeing bonded laborers. They've helped more than 100 people." A flicker of hope crossed her face. "How much?" 50,000 credits for legal fees," he said. "Another 30 for contract termination." Her hope dimmed. "Ethan, that's everything you have. Your savings, your future. You'd ruin yourself." He smiled faintly. "I'd still have the house, my consulting work, and you. That's more than enough." She shook her head. "Ethan, no buts," he said. "I've already contacted them. The paperwork's started. In 6 to 8 months, if everything goes smoothly, you'll be free. Legally. Completely. And then we can build something real without any shadow hanging over us." Tears welled in her eyes. Why would you sacrifice so much?" "Because I love you," he said simply. "Because it's right. And because Sarah would be proud to see me finally doing something that matters." Vela's composure broke. She stepped forward and wrapped her arms around him, holding on tightly, her whole body trembling. "I love you," she whispered. "I love you too," he said into her hair, his own voice unsteady. And in that fragile embrace, beneath the weight of risk and promise, they both understood. Freedom had a cost, and they had already begun paying it. Ethan held her close, his voice quiet but certain. "I promise you, Vela, one way or another, you're going to be free. Not just free from the concorded system, but free to choose your own life. And if you choose to stay with me, it'll be because you want to, not because you have to." Vela lifted her gaze to his. Her copper eyes shimmered with unshed tears. "I already know what I'll choose," she said softly. "I'll choose you. Every time I'll choose you." They stayed like that in the garden, surrounded by the life they had rebuilt, under the twin suns that had watched them grow from strangers bound by circumstance into something far deeper. For the first time since Sarah's death, Ethan felt something other than grief. He felt hope, he felt purpose, he felt alive. 6 months later, the documents arrived. Ethan stood in his small home office, the morning light washing over his trembling hands as he held the official concorded decree. The bureaucratic phrasing was dense, but the meaning was crystal clear. Vela's bonded labor contract had been terminated. She was free. The road to this moment had been brutal. The law firm faced obstruction at every step. Officials terrified of setting precedent. administrators desperate to preserve their labor system, and other owners who filed complaints claiming Ethan's actions were destabilizing property markets. He'd spent everything. Every credit, every ounce of patience. He testified in 3 separate hearings, argued before unsympathetic panels, received threats from Crawford and others who saw him as a traitor to human interests. But he hadn't stopped. And now, after months of struggle, after years of silence and sorrow, freedom had a name. Vela's. He found her in the garden. The space no longer resembled Sarah's old Earth memorial. It had become something new, something alive. Lyrian flora grew alongside Terran herbs. Falcarian spice vines curled through trellises. Even rare Thoyan blooms opened their translucent petals to the sun's. It wasn't just his or Sarah's garden anymore. It was theirs. A living fusion of 2 worlds, and 2 lives that refused to stay. Broken, Vela, he called. She turned, sunlight catching in her hair, and smiled, a smile that still stole his breath. 6 months of real living had changed her completely. Her posture was upright, her skin luminous from sunlight, and her eyes, those incredible copper eyes, no longer carried the weight of survival. They shone with peace. What is it? She asked, setting down her pruning shears. He held up the documents. It's official, he said. You're free. For a heartbeat, she didn't move. Then she stepped closer, eyes locked on the seal of the decree. She touched it lightly, as if afraid it might vanish. Free, she whispered. I'm actually free. You are, Ethan said. No more bonded labor. No more asset classification. You're a full citizen now, with rights, choices, a future. You can go anywhere. Do anything. Be anyone you want. Tears welled in her eyes, sliding silently down her cheeks. Not of sorrow, but of release. I don't know what to say, she managed. You don't have to, he said gently. Yes, she said, her voice breaking. I do. She set the papers aside with reverence and took both his hands in hers. 6 months ago, you told me that when I was free, I could choose my own life. That if I stayed, it would be because I wanted to. I remember, she smiled through tears. Well, I'm choosing. I'm choosing you. I'm choosing us, this home. This life we've built together, not because I owe you, not because I'm bound to you, but because you're the best thing that's ever happened to me, because I love you more than I thought I'd ever be capable of loving again, because when I imagine my future, you're always there. Ethan pulled her into his arms as she began to cry, her tears wetting his shirt. I love you too, he said, and I promise we'll build a life that honors everything we've survived, everything we've lost, everything we've found. They stood like that for a long time, holding each other in the garden where their connection had first taken root. Eventually, Vela drew back, wiping her face and laughing softly. So, what happens now? Now? Ethan smiled. Now we start the next chapter. The restaurant you've been dreaming about, let's make it real. The traveling you've wanted to do, let's do it. The life you thought you'd never have, let's live it. Just like that? Just like that, he said, then added with a grin. Well, with some planning, budgeting, and paperwork. But yes, just like that, we'll bring those dreams back to life. Together. Vela's smile brightened, radiant. Then I want to cook the bonding dish. The one from my grandmother's book. The one I showed you that night under the moons. Ethan raised an eyebrow. Are you asking me to marry you? I don't know if humans use the same word, she said, laughter breaking through her emotion. But yes, I'm asking you to build a life with me. A formal, recognized, permanent bond. The Lyrian way, the human way. Whatever way lets us tell the universe that we choose each other. Ethan didn't hesitate. Then yes, he said, voice steady, eyes shining. 1,000 times yes. Their kiss was deep, full of promise and memory and everything they had endured to reach this moment. Around them, the garden hummed with life. Native corrals, insects pollinating hybrid blossoms, alien birds calling across branches, a wind carrying the mingled scent of earth herbs and Lyrian spice. That evening they began to cook. Side by side, they prepared the ancient bonding dish, each ingredient carrying the meaning of their journey. Loyalty, forgiveness, passion, patience, hope. And as the twin suns sank beyond the horizon, casting amber and violet light over their shared world, they stood together at last, no longer owner and property, not even savior and survivor, but equals, free and chosen. They cooked the bonding dish together. It took hours. The recipe demanded precision, rhythm, and a level of trust that went beyond words. Each movement a quiet act of understanding between two people who had learned to move in harmony. Every ingredient was chosen with purpose. Loyalty, passion, patience, forgiveness, hope, resilience, and above all, love. When it was finally finished, they sat side by side at the kitchen counter. The air was fragrant with spice and warmth. Each bite felt like more than food. It was a vow. Each flavor a shared memory. Each mouthful a promise of the life they were building together. Between bites, Vela spoke softly. You know, when I was in the processing center 3 years ago, chained, hurting alone, I used to have this nightmare. I dreamed I'd die there, that I'd never taste freedom again, that I'd never know love or joy or purpose, that my life would end as just another forgotten entry in a system that saw people as commodities. Ethan's chest tightened, but she continued. Now I dream about our restaurant, she said, a small smile tugging at her lips, about serving food that makes people light up inside. I dream about writing a cookbook, preserving Lyrian recipes for refugees who've forgotten the taste of home. I dream about waking up next to you every morning, about building something beautiful in a universe that tried so hard to break us. Ethan reached for her hand. We'll make those dreams real, he promised. Every single one of them. The ceremony. 3 months later, they held a ceremony in the garden. It was small and intimate, just a handful of people who had helped them through the long, grueling legal battles. The officiant was the lawyer from the core worlds who had fought for Vela's freedom. Among the witnesses were 2 former bonded laborers now pursuing their own manumission cases. Inspired by Ethan and Vela's precedent, Vela wore traditional Lyrian ceremonial attire she'd painstakingly reconstructed from memory, deep blue robes that shimmered like liquid starlight, embroidered with intricate silver patterns depicting her people's agricultural cycles. In her hands, she carried her grandmother's recipe book as if it were sacred scripture. Ethan wore a simple dark suit. On his lapel, he'd pinned a small cutting from Sarah's original herb garden. Something old, something blue, a quiet bridge between past and future. They stood beneath the twin suns as the first of 3 moons began to rise, the air thick with the scent of herbs and new beginnings. Ethan took her hands. His voice was steady, though emotion shimmered beneath every word. I vow to see you, not as property, not as a label, not as anything other than the extraordinary person you are. I vow to support your dreams, to honor your pain, to celebrate your joy, and to stand beside you through whatever comes. Vela's copper eyes shone as she spoke her vow. I vow to trust you, to believe in your goodness, even when the world tells me not to. I vow to share my culture with you, to cook with intention, to fill our lives with beauty. I vow to remember that choosing you is an act of freedom, and to never take that freedom for granted. They exchanged rings, simple bands of burnished metal inscribed in 2 languages. On Ethan's, connected silence; on Vela's, sacred work. When they kissed, sealing their vows, the small gathering erupted in applause and joyful tears. And there, in that garden that had once symbolized grief, now blooming with new life, they began the next chapter, not as owner and property, not as human and alien, but as 2 souls who had found each other in the dark and chosen to walk toward the light. The celebration. The reception was held inside the house. Vela had prepared a fusion menu that represented their journey, earth herbs blending with Lyrian spices, Thoyan fruit sauces paired with Terran grains. Each dish was a meeting of worlds, an act of defiance and harmony all at once. Laughter filled the rooms. Music played, some human, some Lyrian, some strange and beautiful mix of both. At one point, Vela drew Ethan aside, her eyes glistening in the soft glow of lantern light. Thank you, she said quietly. He frowned, smiling. For what? For everything. For taking off my chains that first day. For seeing me as a person when everyone else saw a commodity. For risking everything, your safety, your finances, your reputation, to free me. For loving me when I'd forgotten what love even felt like. Ethan shook his head. You don't have to thank me for any of that, Vela. You changed me as much as I changed you. You reminded me what it means to live instead of just existing. You gave me purpose again. You helped me honor Sarah's memory, not by replacing her, but by becoming the kind of person she believed I could be. Vela's eyes softened. Still, she whispered, thank you. For everything, he smiled. Then thank you for choosing me, for trusting me, for building this life with me. Their kiss was soft, lingering, a renewal of every promise they'd made. Around them, their friends laughed, toasted, and danced among the scents of herbs and alien flowers. Ethan glanced toward the garden beyond the window, where it had all begun. 6 months ago, he'd been a broken man buying what he thought was a simple domestic worker. 6 months ago, Vela had been a prisoner expecting nothing but more suffering, and now they were partners. Equals. Two people who had taken the worst the universe could offer and transformed it into something radiant, defiant, and beautiful. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but for the first time, it truly felt like theirs. The colony still operated under the old laws. The bonded labor system remained deeply rooted, an institution too vast and too profitable for most to question. There were still whispers when they walked through the market together, still humans who looked at them with disdain, calling their relationship unnatural. And yet, despite all of that, Ethan and Vela kept building their life, carefully, deliberately, layer by layer. They still carried their grief, both of them. The ghosts of Sarah and of Vela's lost family were never far. But grief had softened into something else now. Not a wound, but a soil where new things could grow. They would face it all together. In the garden they'd rebuilt. In the house they'd transformed from mausoleum to home. In the life they were crafting. One meal, one touch, one quiet moment at a time. As night fell, the celebration dwindled to murmurs and soft laughter inside. The 3 moons rose high, draping the garden in silver light. Vela took Ethan's hand and guided him outside once more. They stood among the living tapestry they had created. Earth herbs and Lyrian blooms, Falcarian vegetables and Thoyan fruits all flourishing side by side in improbable harmony. This, Vela said softly, her voice almost reverent as she gestured at the vibrant chaos of color and scent. This is what I want our life to be. Different worlds, different traditions, different ways of being, all coexisting, supporting one another, creating something that could never exist if any part were missing. Ethan looked at her, then at the garden glowing under the moons. Then that's what we'll build, he promised. A life that honors everything, the joy and the sorrow, the human and the Lyrian, the past and the future. All of it, together. They stood there in connected silence, holding each other close as the stars unfolded across Corrales 7's violet sky. The air smelled of earth and spice and life renewed. And in that quiet, they found what both had been searching for since their worlds had fallen apart. Not an ending, but a beginning. Not an escape from pain, but a transformation of it into purpose. Not a return to what they had lost, but an evolution into who they were meant to become. 2 souls from different worlds, finding in each other what the universe had tried so hard to take away: hope, dignity, and the radical, defiant belief that love could transcend even the most impossible circumstances. And in that moment, standing beneath the light of 3 moons and 1,000 stars, it was enough, more than enough, it was everything.